Well, Democrats' latest efforts to rebound from the 2024 election loss prove they still just don't quite get the problem. So over the weekend, we had news that a group of Democratic operatives are pouring $20 million into a strategic partnership to, quote, to study the syntax, language, and content that makes them able to communicate with young men. This is offensive for any number of reasons. First and foremost, you're talking about a party that just raised $1 billion. This is something you're supposed to be serious about, and you're only spending $20 million of that? Count me out. Second of all, I think they need to take a look at the voter shifts over the last several elections. Donald Trump, in 2024, overperformed Kamala Harris among young men 53 to 45%. He had roughly a third of young black male voters, he had 50% of Latino male voters, and roughly 2/3 of young white male voters. But Harris still overperformed the levels that Joe Biden was polling at earlier in the cycle. So this isn't necessarily like a patriarchy or a sexism problem, which I'm not saying those don't exist, but Democrats need to just pump the brakes and stop playing identity politics. All of the young men I've talked to about the 2024 election say, we are tired of being otherized. Treat us like you treat the rest of the country. We care about the economy and we care about the government staying out of our personal lives. The Democratic Party needs to look at how they are running the entire operation instead of drilling down on all these different subsets within their so-called Big Tent Party.
Christian, the moment I knew Kamala Harris was going to lose the election, which I always maintained, anyone following Biden in the Democratic Party had a dramatic uphill battle just because the original sin was the ARP spending, which lit the economy on fire and created the worst inflationary crisis in 40 years. But after Harris got in and you had the media love affair, just the words I can't say on television, Brat Summer, the massive psyop that was J.D. Vance's weird, whatever. The moment I realized, oh no, this isn't going to work, she will lose, Trump will win, was when she released her plan for black men. And her plan for black men was federal weed legalization, easier at-home sports gambling, and all the PACs started running the ads saying, get Republicans out of your bedroom, protect pornography, and protect abortion. Your view of men, and of black men in particular, has to be so rock bottom. You have to, I mean, that's just contempt, right? If you think the most important thing, what will drive men to the polls is porn, weed, and sports gambling. Like, it's quite frankly, you know, the inverse of the problem that historically parties have had with women, right? So I went through a couple of polls of how the party voters feel about masculinity. You had, so first of all, men in general, so 2/3 of men view the Democratic Party unfavorably. That's Quinnipiac. But there was this Pew poll right before the election that showed that 53% of Republican men consider themselves highly masculine, but only 29% of Democratic men do. And to me, that doesn't tell me how masculine the men actually are. That tells me what they think is socially acceptable to say, because we know that a bias in polling is you don't want to say something that you think could reflect poorly on your character to a pollster, right? Even if you think it's anonymous, you know it's going in somewhere. That tells me that Democratic men are scared to say that they're very masculine because they somehow view this as a bad thing. Nearly half of all Democrats say that our culture places too much value on men who are assertive, confident, and risk takers. To me, those are all three values I think of as positive forms of masculinity that, as long as they're channeled in a virtuous way, that's what, you know, it was assertive, confident risk takers who stormed the beaches of Normandy and made sure that Europeans weren't speaking German for the next 100 years, right? It's positive masculinity that has all those traits. It's, so, you know, the joke is always, oh, the liberal version of Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan, but like it's a oft repeated joke for a reason. And the fact is, there is I don't know if it's the groups, I don't know if it's academia, I don't know if it's just a selection bias of women and gay men are, you know, more likely in DC to be like the top level comm staffers for Democrats. But there is just like the fact that in the Democrat parlance, in Democrat circles, it is somehow viewed as a bad thing to be a bro.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's like such a fundamental problem. I don't know how you can pay your way out of that, is my point. Like you can develop better policies, but how do you just change a cultural attitude of it's bad to drink beer with your bros?
I mean, it starts at the top, really, and I think the problem is not necessarily that they've demonized masculinity specifically, but it's, you know, it's how you view the country and where we are right now. Donald Trump, for all the lies he spews, he's constant about the fact that America is exceptional, you are exceptional, and we're going to get somewhere we haven't even been before. It's going to be beautiful, baby. You're going to love it. So much winning. Democrats, on the other hand, I feel like over the last decade, their campaign message has been the country is in turmoil and we have to do something about it. And all of these things are problems, including you and how you think and how you behave and how you act or vote, right? We need to like strip all of these dividers out of politics if we really want to pursue policy that helps the entire country, right?
It does.
Because
we need a viable opposition party. This is not a sustainable state of affairs to have a Democratic Party that is this incompetent
100%.
and hated.
And look,
I mean, if 2/3 of men don't like you, that's not a party.
no.
That's maybe a movement, you could call it, I don't know, a club. But you cannot have electoral viability in this country if 2/3 of men think that you hate them. And like, I after the Tim Walz thing, when they were trying to gaslight us into thinking that Tim Walz was some sort of paragon of masculinity and J.D. Vance was weird, I was like, oh no, you actually have a contemptuous view of American men. And I think that's really sad.